Okay, on the homework I saw, you had a set of simultaneous equations like 2x plus 4y equals 7 and x squared plus 5y equals 3. How do you solve that system? Well, people did pretty well with it, okay? I want to solve the first equation for one of these variables and then plug into the second one, right? Now let's think ahead a little bit. I could solve for y or I could solve for x, right? If I solve for x, I'm going to get what? 7 minus 4y divided by 2. And then I'll plug that in for x, right? And then I'll have to square the thing, right? Do I really want to have to square that? I mean, I can do that. You know, distributive law is not that hard to apply, okay? But I think I don't want to solve for x. I think I want to solve for y, because when I do, I'm going to get 7 minus 2x over 4, and I can plug that in here, and I'm not going to have to square it, right? That makes sense? Okay? So you do it either way, and people did it both ways, and people pretty much did their algebra pretty well, and mostly down to the point where they solved for one of the variables. Now, of course, when you solve the system, you've got to solve for both variables, okay? So two things I'll say about a system like this, and I'll give you another one to do, okay? Okay, first equation tells you this. That's really straightforward. Although, you know, I do want you to write out steps and so forth. The second equation is x squared plus 5y. That means it's going to be x squared plus 5 times 7 minus 2x over 4 equals 3, right? Now those steps are straightforward. I think pretty much everybody's doing them. So far there's no problem. And I don't think there's much of a problem in finishing this problem, this thing, okay? Now you understand, if I had chosen to solve for x, then I would have had to plug in here and I'd have had to square what I got, right? So it's really better to solve for y. But having done that, what's the very first thing you do with this equation? First thing, look at it, you see immediately there's something that I want to get rid of. It starts with D.
Denominator?
Huh?
Denominator?
Yeah. So I multiply everything by 4. So I'm just going to say you clear the denominator. Now we've done that many, many times. So I'm skipping a step that you shouldn't. But this is what happens. Now what do? What kind of an equation do I have?
Quadratic.
Yeah, you got to recognize that it's a quadratic equation, and that needs to be more or less quick, preferably instant. You see you've got an x,
Yeah,
well,
I
you
can
know,
see the square.
it would be a quadratic if I'd have written down the square. Now it's a quadratic equation. Now, so if you didn't answer, oh, you should have seen up here that it was a quadratic. Just ignore that I did something stupid, okay? Not stupid, careless. Okay? It's a quadratic equation, so you put it into the form of a quadratic. So there are a couple of steps of algebra and, you know, simplification you got to do. You got to get 4x squared minus 10x. That's 35 minus 24, which is plus 23 equals 0. Okay? So x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus, let's see, that's going to be 92. 4 times 92 is 368. over 2 times 4. Okay? Now in this case, you get a complex solution. Okay? Now 4 goes into 268 as a perfect square, and you end up with 67. Now you can fill in the details and should be able to do it. Although if I give you one like this in a test, you wouldn't necessarily have to go through all this, okay? I wouldn't give you one that came out this complicated. But you should be able to handle this, okay? So, x equals 5/4 plus square root of 67/4 I for x equals 5/4 minus the square root of 67 over 4 times I. Now, you could do this. You just use the quadratic formula and simplify it, right? And you were doing okay. You know, as a class, everybody seemed to be doing okay with getting the I and stuff like that. And, you know, you want to do all the steps because I'll give you notes if you don't, saying you should have, okay? And you don't want to have to read my handwriting, so, you know, make it easier on yourself and fill in all the steps, okay? So, we've solved for x. We know what our x's are. Now, I don't even know if I might have made an arithmetic mistake or something, okay? But the procedure is this. So now, what do I have to do? Have I solved the system? What do I need in order to have a solution to the system? Actually, I'm going to have 2 solutions because I've already got 2 values of x, right? And they're complex, so you're not even going to be able to plot them. You don't get a real number solution, right? But, and I probably won't ask you to do one that has a complex solution, but accidentally I might, so I'd like to see you do it. What's the next? What do you have to do to complete the solution? What do you have to have in order to have a solution? You got to have an x and a y, right? Do we have a y value? Are we going to be able to get one?
Plug it back in there.
Yeah, you plug these back into one of the equations. Which equation would you rather plug these values of x into, this one or this one?
Top one.
Because you don't want to have to square that thing, although it's not that hard, okay? It wouldn't be that bad, but it's much easier just to do this in the first place. So we plug these in. Now you're not going to be able to read that word, but you plug in and solve for y. And you plug each one. Plug in each x, we'll just get rid of that ugly word. Plug each x in and solve for y. And that's the step that seems to have been missing on most of the papers that I saw. And that's not so bad. I mean, you know, you just got to complete it, right? You've done the hard thing, you found x. Just plug it in there and find out what y is, right? Okay? So you just kind of came up one step short, but you did 90% of the problem. You just got to finish it, okay? So I'm going to give you another one and this time finish it. Fair enough?